The United States should suspend all assistance to Pakistan. There are three reasons why we should do so. First of all, Pakistan undermines the security and stability of the Middle East. The second issue is that we lose soft power internationally. And the third issue is that aid distorts and actually harms the Pakistani economy. And there's one more issue, the fourth issue, which is that the money's not being handled correctly, making it rare to ever find its way to the intended goal. Now going back to the first issue, which is, right now the United States sends something like $7 billion in total to Pakistan, which actually undermines the security and stability of the Middle East. First of all, Pakistan fosters terrorism. Pakistan army officials, quote, knew of bin Laden and allege as many as 12 officials knew about bin Laden's whereabouts, which is according to a BBC News article published in February of 2012. The Haqqani terrorist network, Al-Qaeda ally, is, quote, acting as an arm of Pakistan's inter-service intelligence agency. Ultimately, we cannot be sending taxpayer dollars to a foreign government involved in doing serious harm to Americans and our allies. Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Admiral Mike Mullen stated that Pakistan's support of terrorism is part of their national strategy. Part of their national strategy is to support terrorism, something that destabilizes the Middle East, the country of Pakistan, as well as the surrounding countries, and that heightens tensions between Pakistan and India. Overall, very dangerous thing to be supporting. The question is whether our taxpayer dollars are actually going to legitimate causes that would increase the stability. Ultimately, it does not. More than 80% of aid given to Pakistan, according to the Department of State, a recent report signed by Hillary Clinton, it's unclear where it goes. Now they're considering what Hillary Clinton calls heightened preventive measures to follow the money or whatever, but of course that hasn't worked, and it will not work because Pakistan's not willing to cooperate with us, and therefore we can't be giving taxpayer dollars to a country which is committed to doing actual harm to Americans as well as destabilizing the Middle East. Now I want to move on to the second issue, which is that we lose soft power internationally. Taking anything less than a hard line with Pakistan will only make us look weak to those who are fighting in the region, to terrorists elsewhere, and to other rogue states. The funding is a contradiction of our foreign policy goals, and ultimately, by allowing Pakistan to continue to support terrorism, knowing about bin Laden's whereabouts, as well as the support of the Haqqani terrorist network, which has been linked to more than 72 deaths of American soldiers in the Middle East, that is inappropriate, and it's hard to be diplomatic when countries know that we contradict our policies all the time, especially in areas of such importance. Now the third issue is that aid actually distorts and harms the Pakistani economy. Aid is creating services which legitimate private enterprises cannot compete with. Rather than pouring money after bad, we should be shifting towards a logical policy, which creates jobs and stability through jobs in the long run. Again, what Pakistanis ask for is trade, not aid. And now I want to get to this fourth and final issue, which I brought up before, which is ultimately aid that goes to Pakistan is not being handled correctly. For 60 years, we've been giving money to Pakistan. We have seen little result from our aid, and arguably the situation has devolved further. Funneling funds through corrupt and inefficient bureaucracies, that's all that's really happening. American officials acknowledged there were too few controls over the money, referring to the $5 billion given to Pakistan military in an effort to fight Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. Most of the money has now disappeared. Pakistani politician Imran Khan, leader of the Pakistani Movement for Justice, told BBC News Asia that Pakistan was more poverty-stricken than ever, but little international aid money reached its intended target. He said the aid money propped up corrupt government and that reforms were what would save Pakistan. That's ultimately what's happening. We're pouring money into Pakistan. It's not reaching its intended goals. It's propping up corrupt bureaucracies, which use the money to manipulate the economy. Writing blank checks to the Pakistani regime is counterproductive in the long run. And in a way, it props up the military-industrial complex of Pakistan by encouraging this kind of behavior. So for these 4 reasons, the fact that Pakistan undermines the security of the Middle East and that our aid in turn supports that, the loss of diplomatic power coming to the discussion table because of the contradictions in our policy, the fact that aid distorts and harms the Pakistani economy, and that the money's not being handled correctly, that's why we must suspend aid to Pakistan. Leave a comment below, agreeing, disagreeing, some refutation, factual correction.